All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for showing up to the meeting where we're going to discuss the Valero gas station. Nope. Now, this is a special meeting of City Council to talk about California and Second Avenue. Thank you for being here. If we can have a roll call, please.
Councilmember McAdams.
Here.
Councilmember McCarthy.
Here.
Councilmember Biala.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fisher.
Here.
Mayor Delgado.
Here. All right. Commander Cox, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after a moment of silence, please?
Mayor, can I make a quick point of order? Just as we go into this moment of silence, I think this holiday period is a time for happiness and joy for so many of us, and yet there's a tremendous amount of suffering, some of which we witnessed this week. And so I just would like everyone to think about people that are hurting as we go into this holiday season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to our city manager to open this discussion up. Thank you, Lane.
Thank you, Mayor. And we apologize. This was just a really quick special meeting that was scheduled at the request of the mayor and some of the council just to update what is going on with California Avenue. And so I wanted to get some information out. And the other thing was on Second Avenue. And so let me do Second Avenue first. That is the easier ones. So Second Avenue has been from MGen going up CDEC Hill has been under construction forever. The latest that the Dunes is telling us is, and the holdups the last little bit has been just getting it energized from PG&E. And they've told me, I think the Dunes was planned to be here. Maybe they'll be online. Is this week, next week, it should be energized. As soon as the power is energized for the streetlights, those barriers will be removed and those signals again, that'll be access. The barriers will be moved to the back of the property so that people can't go all the way up CDEC Hill, but they'll be able to, the MCWD and all the offices and buildings back there, they'll have access through that signal. So hopefully very soon now. Oh, Doug's online. And so maybe after I finish the presentation, Doug can give me a more recent update. Now with Second Avenue or California.
Wait, we have to go through it. So we have two agenda items. If you took Second Avenue first, then we're on item 4B. Does anyone in the public here present have any question about Second Avenue? Okay, go to remote. I'm not hooked up with remote yet. So does anyone have their hand up on remote, Syra? Okay, so any questions, comments from council?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We don't have any like reports or information. Are you needing council direction, or I'm not sure why we're having this meeting?
We're not needing any council direction, just to update the council on what has recently happened with California Avenue. We had a lot of questions, so just getting that out to the public.
Okay, so for a special meeting to be called, to me, that's like there's something important, there's something timing. It's the week of Thanksgiving. I'm just curious, what do you need from us today?
I don't need any specific action from the council today. I think it didn't want to wait till after the holidays to get some of this information out available to the public. Just want to let them know exactly what's going on, why, rather than have to wait another week or 2 weeks.
Okay.
Councilmember Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How long was the plan to originally to have it closed? For how long?
I'll cover that kind of in my presentation, but,
We're talking about Second Avenue.
oh, sorry.
Yes.
The original plan was not nearly as long as it has been. I'm not positive. Edry is on vacation, so I'm not positive what the original schedule was.
And have staff in it, because I think it's been more than a year now. So has staff been asking the developer regularly what's
Yes,
holding it up?
yes.
Because you said, the developer is telling us, Shay is telling us it will take longer, but aren't we the ones who should be telling them to, hey, open it? It should have been opened a year ago.
Correct, but like the PG and a lot of those things have been, those are things beyond their control, beyond our control. It's getting those utilities and infrastructure in.
I know we can always blame PG&E and that's true in most of the cases, but more than a year delay that cannot be just PG&E.
I can get a report back to you from the dunes of exactly where all the issues and all
Okay,
the delays
yes.
are.
Yes, because it's important. It's dangerous for people having to go to Third Avenue. That's not signalized yet. So this is really important to get it opened as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's go to Councilmember Biala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think along those same lines, because this relates not only to Second Avenue, but also for the next discussion on California, that the street closures are set by the developers, as I understand it. And Councilmember Vischer was saying that if it's delayed, then we should be intervening in some way. And I'm just wondering what the usual process is, because this kind of thing doesn't usually come before our council. So if I could have the city manager opine on that and clarify the usual process for this. Thank you.
I don't know if there's a usual process. We have a unique situation where we have an old military base that we're completely rebuilding that as part of the Dunes Development Master Plan. A lot of new streets are being built, but occasionally we have an existing street that has to be rebuilt or reconstructed that is part of the new development. And you'd had the MCWD, the 4 buildings and other buildings there got constructed ahead of time of those other phases. And now the other phases are starting to move forward, which is generating those. And so I don't know if there's anything standard about that development there. It really was a unique situation.
Thank you.
Councilmember McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. I definitely want to hear the city manager's presentation and get to public comment relatively quickly. What I'm hoping is that, and maybe I should ask this later, but we can consider giving a little bit more time for public comment since it's just this one issue. There doesn't seem to be very many people here. Or maybe we can combine the items and do 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we have 2 issues. We're starting with Second Avenue. We've heard the presentation by staff, and now we're in the question and comment period. Then we'll go to California, which I think is what you were looking forward to.
Okay, understood. So again, just given the absence of a staff report where I could do any homework ahead of time, I'm really interested in hearing from the public. And I just want to make sure we give them ample time, maybe more than we usually would. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we just heard from the public. There was no public comment. I understand now that we have a Don and Doug. We're going to get to them in a moment, who are the developer representatives. So in July of 2023, the tenants of the Imgen Business Park were provided a letter saying that the road would be closed for 4 months. And it has caused a lot of inconvenience and anxiety for the people who are no longer able to use a signalized intersection to get to work and get to dialysis and pay their bills at the water management district. And so as Councilmember Elizabeth Vischer said, 1 year has led into 15 months. And we, the city, have no clue what's been going on. We haven't been updated. So the council doesn't know what's happening. And of course, the public doesn't know what's happening. And that's not good because it's our road. So our road, Second Avenue, was fully functional. It was planned to receive all the traffic going to the business park. And then when new development started underway, the road was closed by the people responsible for the development with a 4-month notice that it would be a 4-month closure. And now here we are 15 months later, we still don't have apparently anything in writing. We don't really know what's going on. But there have been people who have been killed. There have been people that have been injured at 3rd Avenue, 4th Avenue. If you try to turn left to get onto Imgen Parkway or off of Imgen Parkway without a traffic signal, especially at night, but in commuter traffic, it's dicey. And as a city, we're responsible. It's our road. And so I thought it was important now that California has also opened, and we're not quite sure how that happened, that we look at all of our roads that we have questions about. There were other roads that I wanted to talk about today, like Salinas Avenue. That's not on the agenda, just these 2 roads are. So hopefully we'll get to those other roads sometime soon. We're talking about Second Avenue, which everyone knows has created some safety hazards. We're all excited or looking forward to 3rd Avenue getting a traffic light in, a new traffic light that can't come soon enough. It would also be nice to talk about that today as a potential to get temporary lights in until the permanent lights get in, but we'll talk about that on another agenda. So it's very concerning to me that we have 3rd Avenue, 4th Avenue taking the planned traffic that was supposed to go to 2nd Avenue. And we've had enough accidents, et cetera, but we, the council, don't know how many accidents. We don't know how many injuries, maybe fatalities there have been, but we should know because we're responsible. So I'm hoping that today is going to lead to a few requests from staff to bring us back information about how many accidents, fatalities, injuries there have been at 3rd Avenue and 2nd Avenue in the last 15 months. I would like to ask staff to come back with something in writing about when 2nd Avenue is going to be opened, why it can't be opened tomorrow. To a layperson like me, it looks as if those lights have remained operational since it was closed. They go through the same cycle they always went through. The lights were never turned off. You just can't go straight through the light or turn left when it tells you you can because there's a chain link temporary fence. But other than that, to my eyes, it looks like those lights never stopped working. It's just that you couldn't abide by them going certain directions because of a physical barrier. So one question I have to staff is, why can't the barriers be removed today, given that the lights appear to be operational and all the barricades on 2nd Avenue in the area be taken down? And there's probably a really good reason. I just need to know what that reason is because it's leading to safety hazards 1 and 2 blocks from that location.
And Andrea's not here, so I can't answer that question, but we'll get Andrea to answer that one.
Okay.
Thank you on that.
Well, fortunately, Doug Yon is online and Don Hofer is in the audience. So maybe we could ask Don or Doug if either of you would like to discuss this. And Don is here. He's coming up to the mic. Thank you, Don.
Can you hear me now? Is that okay? Okay. It's on. Okay. My name is Don Hofer. I'm with Marina Community Partners. Good afternoon. I'm used to saying good evening, so it's nice to see you during the middle of the day. Yeah, lots to talk about and unpack here, right? So when we build a road like this, there is a process we go through, of course, that many of you are, I'm sure, aware of designing those improvements, going through a plan check process with the city, getting approval of those designs, and then implementing the designs. We do give regular updates to staff through Edri or through others on my team of the status of what's going on with all of our projects, including this one. 2nd Avenue, the extension of 2nd Avenue has been problematic to say the least from the standpoint of getting utilities completed in that area with PG&E. We are now on our 5th reschedule with PG&E to tie in that project. 3 of those reschedules, we mobilized staff to the site the day they were supposed to be there to do the tie-in work, and they canceled that day. So it's been the worst experience from our perspective with PG&E, unfortunately. I think they've looked at this as a low priority project. We're very involved in a lot of different aspects with PG&E relative to all of our projects, and it's always a challenge. So just so maybe to step back for a moment, the way it works is we build the improvements. In this case, we're talking about electricity and gas improvements that are in Second Avenue. Our contractors come in and install those. There's a long process of going through, again, design and approvals with PG&E. And then when we build it, PG&E inspectors are on site inspecting all of that. That all happens before you see the surface improvements. That's all underground. Then once the underground work is done, we come in and we pave the street, we put in the concrete and the sidewalks and do all of that. And then one of the last things we have to do is tie those facilities into the existing PG&E system. So there's existing electrical facilities, there's existing gas that has to get tied in. And that's what we've been waiting to accomplish. Once that tie-in happens, the street lights on Second Avenue, so the evening lighting that makes it a safe road that meets city standards, will be activated. So those street lights will be turned on, and then the road can be accepted by the city and opened. So one of the last things we do before we open a facility to the public is we go through an acceptance process with you all, with the city. So that'll be the last thing that we'll have to do, is a punch walk where we go through, and then any last details are resolved, and then the street is open for beneficial use by the public. So we're close. Now, I almost got a picture of it. I didn't want to do that while I was driving, though, on my way here. PG&E is actually there today. So after delays from August to today in getting that work done, it's now getting completed, it looks like, today. And then we'll be able to, move through acceptance. Now, the other side of this too is that for the Imogen properties, I think I heard the mayor say, I was listening as I was coming here, there are properties there. There's a dialysis center, and then the Carpenters Union Hall is there, and 4 is there. And Marina Coast Water District's offices are there. They have a little business association that Garrett at Marina Coast Water District, I think, is responsible for. And we communicate regularly with Garrett on the status of the construction project and what's going on. So every time we've had this issue with PG&E, and they've been anxious for it to get open, trust me, we know that, and we're trying to get it open as quickly as we can for them. So every time there's been a delay, my team has been in contact with Garrett and his team, so that as the association manager, he's aware of that. So we're doing everything we can to get it open. And that's the status of it. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Vischer?
Thank you. And thank you for being here in person, Mr. Hoven, and for having Mr. Jan on Zoom, because I'm surprised, City Manager, that Edwy is not in this meeting.
He's on vacation.
Oh, okay, because he's an important staff member for us for this.
Yeah, he had a scheduled vacation with his family, and
Okay, we'll allow him
Yeah.
to enjoy his time off. So, but my question is, if you explained how complicated it is, and you have to deal with PG&E, who came up with the 4-month prediction that it will be done in 4 months? Because that's the issue here.
The original schedule, so our delays, think about where we are with PG&E. Our delays with PG&E have probably been 4 months at this point, and maybe longer. If I go back, I'm thinking through it here in my head, but the original prediction on the construction schedule came from our construction teams on what they thought it would take to get it done.
So they were a little bit off because it's more than a year longer, or about a year more than 4 months.
I'm sorry, I was listening as I was driving here. I'm not
Yeah,
sure of the dates.
Jack Dow of Shea staff signed a letter to the tenants that said it would be closed for 4 months starting July 2023. That was the last notice that the federal office got, the Bureau of Land Management, because since then they've been coming to me asking me when's it going to open. They're completely clueless what's going on with the road. So I assume the dialysis and other tenants are as well, but I don't know. I just know that the 33 people that work at the federal office have been completely clueless and full of anxiety about the safety of their circumstance. So the question is, if PG&E is holding us up since August of 2024, why were the tenants told it would be done 4 months after July of 2023, but there was no insurance given that the tenants were updated? And why has it taken 15 months instead of 4 months? And why has the city not been more in the driver's seat to be updating council and public? Because it's as if it doesn't matter to anyone that our Christmas was affected last year and that people are unsafely trying to get out of the left-hand turn lanes. If it mattered, it just seemed like somebody would be doing more than what's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if there had been dialogue along the way, we could have, it's just a little odd to all of a sudden be standing in front of city council where we've gone from, a project that was moving along, although with numerous delays, as you're saying, to infinity in terms of importance. It's a little unique, Mayor, with all due respect, that I haven't heard anything from you or the rest of the city council or even necessarily staff on the importance of this for 18 months. And now all of a sudden I'm standing in front of you and defending our actions. So I'm happy to do that.
Right.
But it's not just our issue, right? And
Right.
so in this case, Mayor, I'd say the 4 months was probably an optimistic, right, view of what it would take to get it done. We worked diligently to do that. There was also, a delivery that we had, that we were trying to make for the service station that is going to be positioned at the corner of Second Avenue and Imgen Parkway there on the northwest corner. That project has been delayed, as I think most of you know. I don't think we even have approved construction documents for it yet. It's Harvey Dodwall's project. And so that's set the course for the timing. There has been alternate access with an approved traffic plan. While it's maybe not the most desirable, I understand the concerns about safety, but it is not unsafe. It has been approved as a alternate safe access plan. It meets all city standards. And so I'm not aware of any specific safety issues associated with the current scenario. So it's undesirable. I agree. We're trying to advance it. We're trying to move quickly. I don't know. The last thing I'll say is I don't know necessarily the Bureau's part. Are they part of the commercial association? They must be, because they're in that same business park. So I'm not sure why they're not getting information through the commercial association that MCWD, I believe, is responsible for there. So we've been regularly updating Garrett, and who's the district engineer for MCWD, on the status of the project. They've been pushing us. Trust me, they want it open. We want it open for them. We're not just unnecessarily delaying the opening of a road here.
For many months, I've been passing through concerns of the federal building employees to the city staff, and it's still closed. And it's been many months because they were looking to the 4 month, wondering why it's not open. And as far as it being a safe approved plan, we are, I hope, going to get some information about the number of accidents at 3rd Avenue, 4th Avenue, fatalities and injuries, because it doesn't seem like it's been very safe for the people having to use those two intersections. And I know that the people using the intersections that I know don't feel safe at all with the alternative that's existing today. And they're very much looking forward to 2nd Avenue being reopened. And the reason that it's come all of a sudden is because California opened, and we've been being told here on the dais that that wouldn't occur until 8th Street was open. 8th Street's not even begun construction. So it seems like the city is not, to me, it seems like the city is not in control of the opening and closures of its own roads, which has impacts on our residents. And it's my fault more than anyone. And so I think it's my job to look into this, and we can't do it one-on-one.
Sure.
So it's better to do it in public. And the reason it's such an urgency is because of California was open 2 weeks ago. And I wish this meeting could have happened before today, but this is the fastest that we were able to assemble this meeting. Let's go to Councilmember McAdams.
Thank you. So has the Traffic Advisory Commission heard this topic? I think I'm still confused. Like, what is the purpose of us being here right now?
The purpose of us being here today is to get an update of roads that don't seem to be going according to plan, and for us council to be aware of what the options are. California, do we leave it open? Do we close it? What do we need to do to make the public comfortable if we leave it open? These are the kinds of things, because it wasn't supposed to open, we thought, until 8th Street. So now that a major road is opened and a lot of commuter traffic is going to be going through people's residential quiet streets, what, if anything, should we do? But for the 5 of us to be out of that loop after the 2nd Avenue situation, which is still ongoing, and we don't know what's going on with Salinas Avenue yet. So there's a pattern here, and I thought that this was, because of California, a good time for us to get aware and provide direction after hearing what the options are.
Okay, great. So for me, I kind of like want to see big picture, because I don't necessarily think that the council should like have a meeting anytime a street is opening. So I would be curious, whenever we're getting reports or information, I'd like to know what that process and policy is, because I'm not a street person and I'm not on staff. And so typically for me as a decision maker, I try to really like stay in my lane and make sure that I'm not overstepping. And I like to look at big picture. So for me, coming out of this meeting, I would like to know, what is the process when we're opening a street? If there's not a process, then there should be steps taken, like traffic advisory. That's why we have the Traffic Advisory Commission. So just sort of like with the Planning Commission, right? There's steps to when issues and things should come to us. So I think that that's sort of where I'm coming from here. So I'd just like to see some big picture policy resolve. And I don't, like, no offense, but I don't want to have a meeting and have to discuss every street that's opening or not opening. It should be communicated clearly to our residents and the city and to us if we want that information, and the developers. So that's really just, I think, the simplicity of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Biala?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo in support of those comments. And I think because we're not just solely responsible, obviously, and we have a lot of connections with the Dunes and all your partners. It seems to me that if you get stuck on a PG&E, a priority, that we should be involved in that. We could possibly be helpful. I don't know how much standing a city jurisdiction has in the PG&E issue, but when it comes to safety or impacts to commercial areas or issues, with residential, I think that we should be expected to assist you. But I do agree that we're lacking some kind of accountability here, because I also don't want us to be involved in street openings, because this is the first time in 4 years that I've experienced this, but something went wrong. And so here we are, the identified body to handle this. And I don't know what the functions of the Traffic Advisory Commission is, or EDRI in terms of, his role in all of this, but we should, from this body, expect that there be some process by which they know when things are falling out of the checklist, so to speak. So that's built in, that we don't just say, well, it's your authority, so we'll not, interfere, but we need to know that they're tracking significant things, and that from those bodies that we identify and have a process for which they're accountable to. I think just like the IMGIM widening, it's so amazing to me, the updates that they have to the public. I want to see that happen not for every street, but certainly when there's commercial sites impacted or residential potential impacts. So we should have that as a model in mind, that we don't just say, hey, they're going to take care of it, whether it happens in 4 months or a year, and that we know, because the public is alerted on a regular basis, but also the council through our bodies, through our formal, whether it's the Advisory Traffic Committee, or I'm not even sure about that body myself, but whether it's EDRI updating us, but not only if there's a problem. I don't think we need to be so hands-on with that kind of development personally. But when there's a problem, certainly that we need to be updated, and that is the expectation for us. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally agree. And I think what we are seeing here is that we need better communication. And if the staff communicates with the developer, then it's up to staff to communicate with us and to inform the public. And I think it's not just for this project, but we see more projects. So there's room for improvement. We can all work on that, or staff can work on that. And I totally agree that the Indian widening project, that communication, that weekly update, and even more updates if there's a road closure or whatever is going on, that's an example of how to do it. That is awesome. And I understand that not all projects can do this. Some projects are smaller, but to keep that look at that as an example of how well it can be done. Yes. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McCarthy?
Thank you, Mayor. I can appreciate that you're often the focal point of a lot of these kind of complaints, and so it kind of puts you in a position to have to feel like something has to be done. I will say that for me, our staff, our Traffic Advisory Committee in particular, is fantastic. There actually is a process that I'm aware of and that I share with constituents all the time, and that is you have a form on the website, you have a concern, you submit it, get scheduled for a Traffic Advisory Committee meeting. I'm not aware that they ever reject any legitimate, complaints or concerns. And so that's what I would have liked to have seen coming into this meeting, that whoever is concerned submits that form, goes through the committee, and that the committee presents a formal staff opinion to this body so that it can help us move forward. I also will say that this particular developer in particular has been extraordinarily open and available for me, just speaking for me personally, if I have concerns, and it would be my belief that they're equally open to any other elected on this dais. And so I want to hear from the public, and I'm hoping we can move to the other item without making this too long of a meeting, but that's just my perspective. I think we should be giving out this form to anyone with concerns, should go through the process, and then we can go forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, the Traffic Advisory Committee, the TAC Committee, is, I think, maybe our best body, most responsive, most accessible. You can talk as long as you want. You're not limited to 3 minutes. It's very personable. The people in charge, the police chief, fire chief, or their representative designees are there. EDRI is there. You get good information on the spot. It's a wonderful process. Maybe that's because very few people participate. And if more people, 10, 20, 30 people came to every meeting, they might have to have the protocols that we have at planning and city council meetings, but it's a great example. So my process is, when I get these complaints, I ask staff, to look into it. But if a long time goes by, nothing happens, and then other things start to happen like California, I start to see a pattern. And I believe that I assume the council doesn't know what's going on, because I know that I don't know what's going on. And I think that it's when it rises to a point like it's rising now, in my opinion, that I want everybody to be here to hear the pros and cons about what's going on. And we might have some similar process with this Valero gas station. But anyway, okay. So as far as Second Avenue, my question is, is it true, Don, then, I'm just trying to follow up with what you said, that because the streetlights are not operational yet, it would not be safe, proper, legal to open Second Avenue?
That is our standard, is we want streetlights operational, yes.
Okay. And then my other question to you is, must the final details be resolved and the city accept a road before Second Avenue opens.
Yes.
Okay. Cause I'm gonna ask the same thing about California. Okay,
And Mayor, if you don't mind, real quick, that's primarily an insurance issue, right? So in the future, if there is an issue, once it's been confirmed the street has been constructed, meets all standards as designed. And then, you know, if there is something that happens, somebody gets injured or otherwise, we can be assured, both the city and the developer team, that there's no negligence, right? There's
Right.
not anything that was done incorrectly or otherwise it's met all standards. And so that's typically how it goes with streets. And we do provide, I know Edrie's not here, which is difficult for your staff. We do provide regular updates. There's constant communication back and forth over the status of these projects. Your inspectors, the city inspectors are on site regularly inspecting things. And so it's just a little unique for that level of detail to get, you know, obviously to the city council. I understand the reason we're here today and the concerns. So happy to answer whatever questions you have.
all right, thank you. And my last question, then we'll turn it over to Councilmember Fisher. To Lane Long, do you know, Lane, if we have contacted PG as a city, you know, like Gina Arnold is our municipal liaison, political liaison. So if things are bound up, she's supposed to be there to help us, you know, crack that Gordian knot. Do you know if we have contacted PG&E in the last many months to say, hey, come on, we got to get this going. What can we do to get PG&E off the ball?
I don't know that. I can check with Edrie.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Fisher?
Thank you, Samir. I don't know how many streetlights we're talking about because the original road didn't have any streetlights either for that short stretch, if I'm seeing this correctly. And if I remember, I know it was pretty dark. And then when you turned right to go
That's
to
right.
the
That's right.
the Carpenters Union,
Mhm.
then you would have streetlights. But we've been using this without streetlights
Good point.
for,
Since 2016.
okay, thank you for that, because I have no clue how long. So, so I don't know what the issue is. Or if it's the streetlights, and you will probably say this is too hard. I thought, can we open it during the day and close it when most of the employees have left? Open, close. It was open when I passed it just now.
The
They
gate,
were, they were working on that.
the gate was open there.
Yes, yeah.
So there were no streetlights for 7 years.
Well, probably longer, right? Since the
Yes.
base closed, right?
Yes.
Well, but I mean, it
I
was
mean, there were
years.
there were a lot of streets that were open with no lighting at all, in the old, you know, in the old dilapidated, you know, areas that were still the barracks. And you're right, I hadn't, you know, thought about that, but that was probably unsafe, right? And so it just doesn't meet the standard that we use when we turn over acceptance of new streets as we construct them today. So, I mean, obviously, if there are things like this and there are critical streets in the network or otherwise, we're always happy to do whatever we can to accommodate that. But that hasn't been the discussion around Second Avenue at this point.
Can I ask one more question? So you said PG&E is there today and I saw them. How long, this is hard for you to answer probably,
Right.
but how long do you think it will take to
Open it.
get it all signed off and open?
You know, we would have to work with staff to work through getting that to council and having it accepted then. So I believe there's an acceptance process that comes to council, right? Lane.
Guido's hands shaking his head, yes.
Yes, correct. If everything gets approved on your end, the earliest we can get it would be our December 17th council meeting.
I would really like staff to work together with the developer to get it done this year and not let it go because January, we won't have a meeting until late in January. So if this can be prioritized, that would be.
I just don't know if in another city, 2 Christmases would go by
I know. We are special.
looking like a disaster of
Yes,
barricades on the streets
yes.
and safety issues 1 and 2 blocks from there, taking the traffic that was planned here.
Yes.
That's my fault. I should have been
And I
doing
agree-
this years ago or
And I
months
agree
ago.
with Councilmember McCarthy that, I mean, I attend most of the tech meetings, if not all, and I didn't even think to bring it up there. So we all make
Yep,
mistakes.
We have to
So
be
thank you.
eyes more open.
Yeah.
Councilmember Biala?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I hope we don't beat ourselves or other people up for this. I mean, this is sort of par for the course that I see in terms of Marina growing from what we were before, a small town with a small mentality, to now bursting at the seams with development and all kinds of people now interacting in our city. So we do the best we can, and we've from the dais, I know we've been shocked at some of the things that have happened in the past and continued until our eyes became open. So this to me is on par with that. So we're not trying to beat you up, Don, or
That's
beat
fine.
ourselves up. So
Right.
just having
I
said
see
that.
this is progress.
Yes, it is. And it won't happen hopefully again. So that's the best we can do at this point. The other thing is, I would like from this and also the next discussion to make staff recommendation about this is that that we expect that we have a process of trigger points for the process of closing streets that especially impact commercial and high density homes, residential areas, so that whoever is this, I don't know what Edry's connection is to the TAC committee because I'm not really that familiar with it, but they produce for us some kind of a plan that shows us that this won't be repeated, that they have some kind of checklist and some kind of trigger points that alert them to, well, we need to do something about this and report it out. And the other part to it is that we have them develop a public update process so that we can see whether it's posted on our, on our website or whether the city sends it out like with the MGM Whiting folks, to people who have signed up for updates or whatever it is. But I think that the council needs to see both those things. A process, whoever's manning this and is accountable for this, have a plan so we can see that, have trigger points, and also their plan for public updates. And I think once we do that and establish that, then I think that those kinds of things won't have to come to our council again.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I'd like to make a quick motion that we request of staff at their convenience to come up with a written road closure, road opening process. It may already exist, so it's not going to be a lot of work. If it doesn't exist, we need one. We have Salinas, 8th Street, Carmel, Imgen, going to go through openings and closings coming up here. Same kind of thing that we want to try to get ahead of. So my motion is that we ask staff to come up with a closure process, a road opening process, and that we get some data in the last 2 years at 3rd Avenue and 4th Avenue on Imgen Parkway regarding number of accidents, injuries, and fatalities. And that's my motion.
May I add one thing? Oh, do you want me to second it? And then let me say, and also can we add that we expect that there's a community update process that is spelled out in that plan?
Yeah, a community update process spelled out in this plan that includes estimated times of opening and closing these roads. So as soon as we, so that I accept that, that's the amendment to my motion. And now I'm hoping that sometime in the next few months, we'll find out what the deadlines, scheduled openings, dates are regarding Salinas Avenue, 8th Street, Carmel Avenue, Imgen Parkway. Then we have something to hold on to that will probably shift over time, but we'll be in the shifting, we'll be involved in that to be able to tell people what's going on when they ask about timelines. Also, I think it's going to be helpful to know the number of accidents and fatalities are going to go, hopefully they're going to go down once 2nd Avenue and once 3rd Avenue gets its signal light. So these numbers will be good for comparison when those other improvements are made. Okay. Any final comments, questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Okay. So we'll move on now to California.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just have some bullet points, and this came really quickly, which is why you don't have a staff report or any background information. So we apologize for that, but this is the best we can do. So the agenda item, and our city attorney can jump in, but we've had some different communications about Los Animas, and leases and things like that. And that's not on the agenda. And so we can't talk about items like that. But the item is to talk about the impacts of California Avenue reopening, and then just talk about options with that. So yeah, California Avenue, from background, it's a collector street in the city's network. And in our street network, we have arterial roads such as Reservation, Del Monte, Imgen. Those are critical for moving traffic. And then you have collector streets, which are also critical for moving traffic in the city. And their purpose is so you don't get traffic all moving down local roads. And so California is a collector in the city's network. It starts at Reservation Road, and the speed limit, it varies up and down on California. And so from Reservation to Carmel, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. From Carmel to Ryan Dollar, it's 25 miles an hour. From Ryan Dollar to Imgen, it's 40 miles an hour. And then from Imgen to 8th or 5th Avenue, and somewhere on the maps, and we don't really have it defined, California Avenue turns into 5th Avenue. But on that segment, it's 25 miles an hour. And I had our police out there looking at that again and verifying that today. And one of the outcomes that they told me is we definitely want to put more signage on California Avenue on both directions. And there's other things that we these are kind of the options things. So that it's an important collector part in the network. California Avenue is also equally important for access to the equestrian center, for CHUMB properties, for MCWD's corporate work offices are down there. It's important for access to Los Animas, and then it's an important access for the whole Dunes neighborhood. And that's why it's a collector street. You have all these different things that's important to it. Now, California had been open. It was part of Ford's network. And then as the Dunes had been building for years, California had been open. And there's not a lot of traffic has ever come down California Avenue. But it was closed while the Dunes reconstructed California Avenue. It was kind of realigned a little bit. They repaved it. And then somewhere the plan, it was never official, but it had been discussed. Well, it wasn't going to be open until 8th Street got built, and that was never an approved document or anything. I think it was just a discussion that somehow it's gotten floated and carried weight, and I think part of this is goes back to these projects are just taking longer than initially expected. And I think there was anticipation that 8th Street would have been built earlier. But anyway, it was closed temporarily. It'd been functioning before that. And then a few weeks ago, the city council accepted the improvements for California as well as other parts of the development there. And typically what happens when those improvements are accepted, those streets are open. It happens in Sea Haven development. It happens in all the other streets in the Dunes. And so it was just the typical part. City accepted it. The barriers were removed. What didn't happen was we weren't fully aware. Our staff, Andrew, wasn't really talking about the Dune staff that those barriers were going to be removed and the streets opened, even though that is typically what happens. And so there just wasn't clear communication on that. And one day they're open, and I think that is part of some of the questions and frustrations is no one is fully aware, but that is typically what would have happened. Now, the original base reuse plan, this is to give you even some more history. There's all these lawsuits that were filed when the developments move forward, and there's certain requirements on Imgen and 2nd Avenue that have to be met for thresholds and at certain triggers, improvements have to be made. And so the dunes is very much where the cities aware of those and the different groups have filed those lawsuits. We're tracking that. We have to make certain improvements. And so part of it is you don't want Imgen and Second Avenue failing. And so part of that, part to keep them failing is you have to have the other road networks being built out and operating successfully. And so the base reuse plan, the original plan was for the Salinas Valley traffic, part of it to come down reservation. It would come up Inner Garrison where it connects down by the East Garrison development. And the original plan was that traffic was going to come up Inner Garrison, would come into Marina, come into the Dunes development, and actually it would then curve and turn into 9th Street, and it was called the multimodal corridor at that point, and that would go through the middle of the Dunes development all the way to Second Avenue, and that was the original FORA plan. That was part of the original Dunes plan, was that multimodal corridor with high volumes of traffic was going to be going right through the middle of the Dunes development. And so as the development started moving forward and we started looking at those, we decided that probably wasn't the best option to have these traffic multimodal corridor going down the middle of the Dunes development. And so that corridor, working with FORA, was rerouted to Imgen Road. And that was a major shift of traffic. And so that kind of changed the original development plans of whole 9th Street. And so 9th Street now became a smaller local street, very much smaller. And at that point in time, the corridor, and that's part of why you have all that really nice walking path there with the biking and the pedestrian and the equestrian path, because that was the width of the original multimodal corridor. You're going to have 2 lanes each direction going down the middle of that development. And so when that went away, the lanes narrowed down to local, and then we created that really nice walking corridor that goes now it'll go from the equestrian center all the way down to our aquatic and sports center and the 8th Street Bridge. And so that's part of that back history. That was going to be a major corridor. Council changed that. We shifted it to Imgen, kept that a local road, but California is still part of that, of the collector network, and it's still part of that. And so the thought is, as 8th Street gets built, some of that traffic will come down California, and then it will go on 8th Street to 2nd. There is nothing that would compel the traffic to not go down 9th, but 9th is pretty narrow, and there's stop signs and a lot of bulb outs, and so long term, as 8th Street gets built, I think if the traffic would more likely go down 8th out of 9th, but while California was open previously, there's not a lot of traffic, and in the last week I've been going down every day and looking at California, and it's as it's always been, just not a lot of traffic. Even after it's open, it's just not a lot of traffic. It's going down there. Now, granted, last week I think schools have not been in session, and that plays a little different. But I can tell you, like yesterday morning, I was there during the commute from 7:15 to 8:15, and I saw 2 cars come down California Avenue and turn down 9th. This morning, same period of time, I saw 5 cars that hour and 45-minute period of time. And last week didn't see a lot of cars. And so the history of California is there's not a lot of been in cars, and since it's been opened up, I'm just not seeing a lot of traffic, and it makes sense because the cars going down to Imgen, they're going 50 miles an hour, and it doesn't make sense that if they're wanting to go on 2nd Avenue towards CSU and B, it's much faster for them to continue 50 miles an hour through California. They'll hit 2nd Avenue, they'll turn left there, and it's a much more quicker direct route. If you turn left on California at the signal, you're going to go through multiple stop signs. And then once you get to Ninth, it's a very narrow, you slow way down. Again, there's multiple stop signs. It just takes traffic a lot longer. And so intuitively, the cars are going to be going on engine, and that's been my observations over the years, and certainly last week as I've looked at it a little bit closer. But what we have done is EDRI has put traffic counters on California, both before and after Ninth, and I think there's a counter on Ninth, and so we're looking at volumes and we're looking at speeds, and it's not a good count when schools are out, and especially during holidays, but we're getting that data. And then as they reopen it again, we're going to look at that, and we'll have a sense of what the traffic volume is and what the speeds are. But that's kind of what's going on there now. But with 8th Avenue, actually, let me talk about some now that it has been opened, it helps MCWD, because MCWD, their employees and their trucks previously had to come out on 4th and similar to what you're talking about on 2nd and 3rd. It really helps them to have a signalized intersection for them to come out, and so opening up 4th really helps MCWD. The conditional use permit the Planning Commission issued to Los Animas requires that their preferred route is California, and now that's open. That is their preferred route for those cement trucks, and they will go out California to Imgen. It also helps, now that it's open, it helps the equestrian center traffic. Again, doesn't have to weave through the Dunes neighborhoods. It's able to come down that collector street. And so there's a lot of good advantages. As I've been up there watching it closely, you'll see most of the traffic is coming to California. It's going straight to CSUMB, and that's where I saw the majority of cars. And so opening it really helps the purpose of the collector. It's moving that traffic well through there. Now the future plans that we have is building 8th Street, and so right now 8th Street is built from 2nd to 3rd, and that was part of the Dunes project. The city council, I think, approved 18 months ago a resolution authorizing reimbursement to the Dunes for building 8th Street. And once we did that resolution, this fee they've been paying, they stopped having to pay that. So they would start accumulating money to be able to build 8th. And I think at this point, our finance run it, and they now have about 2.8 million that the Dunes has accumulated. So I think their timeline, I think they will be starting design, or we have the concept design for 8th. That it'll start moving forward pretty quickly, but I think Don Hofer can give you a better update on that. But that will be built from 3rd to California. And again, the Dunes is building that, and where the city is paying for our part of it from the fee money. Now from California all the way down to Inner Garrison, that's part of the bigger, longer term plan. That is part of our city's transportation impact fees. And that long-term road will be constructed and rebuilt. I can't give you a timeline on that, but that will be long-term. We do have in our city's pavement program for next year, 8th Street from California to Imgen Road is going to get repaved in that section there. And so you'll have 8th Street, when the Dune builds it from 3rd to California, we're going to repave from California to Imgen Road. And when the Imgen Road widening project is open, you'll have a good corridor. And honestly, if you're looking at commute traffic, that's where commute traffic from the valley that wants to come down 2nd, that's where they'll go. They'll hit the new roundabout at Imgen Road. They'll take that all the way to 8th, and then 8th, they'll take that to 2nd. And so that's the future plan for that network. And all those pieces are in place. The Dunes now has their funds. City is is in our program to repave 8th there, and Imjin Road is that roundabout is being done right now. In fact, I believe in the near future, Imjin Road is going to be closed and they're going to start work on that roundabout. And I don't have a firm dates on every, but I know that that is part of the next stage of that development. And again, when that happens, it again goes back to California, that's an important access point for CSU and B properties, because at this point, then you have Abrams Drive, and then California will be the ways to access CSU and B properties. And so that is kind of the future plans they're going on with 8. Now we know that I've talked about the equestrian traffic. It's posted on California 25 miles an hour. We have just one sign, so we know we're gonna get more signs along there. We're looking at our traffic, our volumes, our speed counts. I don't think that we're gonna have any problems there. On California Avenue, where the equestrian center is, right there at 9th, if you're going right to Imjin, there's really 2 homes that face California Avenue. But if you go left towards 8th, I think there's 8 homes that face California Avenue. And those are some of the impacts on California that were coming from the cement trucks coming out of Los Animas. But now that California Avenue is open, the preferred route is there. And there's just really 2 homes that will front it. And that is kind of my overall presentation of where California is at, and ready to answer any questions. Or I guess you want to go to the public first for it.
Yeah, let's go to Renee Ortega, our city attorney.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So just want to make sure that, folks understand and council understands that, I know that we received some comments regarding, the Los Alamos, cement plant, and, this meeting was not noticed to discuss the conditional use permit, other than perhaps the fact that California is now open and the preferred route for truck traffic to go is through that segment of California now that it's open. Secondly, there will be a lease that will come to council. So that issue is not for discussion today, but it will be brought to council at some very near future.
All right. Can public ask questions like, can the route preferred be changed to Imjin Road instead of California? Or is that kind of question not okay today?
I think the questions can be asked and we can just take them back, and if we don't have a response today, we can certainly bring some information forward at
Okay.
a future date.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Sure. Let's see, Lane did a great job. There's quite a bit that has gone into the construction of California Avenue. And of course, after it was accepted by city council, the Phase 2 East project for the Dunes was accepted by city council. Our work we had done on California Avenue was part of that. And so our team at Shea worked with your public works inspectors. In this case, I believe it was Eric Nava, to go through the final walk and punch list, and then eventually through the opening process for that road. So it certainly wasn't done in a vacuum. The public works inspector was right there with my team at Shea and at Marina Community Partners, making sure that that was done safely and everything was done appropriately. And so happy to again answer any questions you might have specifically about that. But the other thing I wanted to point out, I know I also serve as the president of the Dunes Homeowners Association. And I know at that level, we've had some concern from residents specifically about truck traffic. We haven't heard at that level, or I haven't heard at that level, concerns about cut through traffic other than every now and then, we'll get a comment from time to time about it. The discussion generally is around, enforcement. And I think the city's done pretty good. Your police department has been always very responsive and we thank you for that. There's times when an officer will be positioned to just make sure speeds are obeyed and other things. And that's been very helpful to that in the neighborhoods. There was also when we originally opened Third Street, there was work we did at the time with your public works manager, Brian McMinn.
Avenue?
I'm sorry, Third Avenue. Thank you. Yes. Brian McMinn to restrict left turns during certain hours, which really helped. That could possibly be done for Fourth Avenue if it needed to be, from the association's perspective. I don't know that I'm necessarily hearing a lot about cut through traffic issues. Some of the streets in the dunes were purposely designed with traffic calming in mind. And, a lot of people over time, complain about the bulb outs at the intersections and other things. And it was really, at the time done as part of the planning process and built into the specific plan for this reason, so that people would be dissuaded from cutting through the neighborhoods because the speeds are lower. You got to go so much slower and there's all this traffic calming. On 9th Street, to the city manager's comments to further support that, there's actually a little bit of a speed table, which is where there's an intersection that's raised that you kind of go up and over at the corner of 4th and 9th Street, where the equestrian trail also crosses in that region. And all of this is done to sort of reduce speeds. And I think it's worked. I mean, there's always the car or two or three, or I don't know what the counts are off the top of my head, that, are sort of disobedient of these types of things and tear through anyways. And so, but at any rate, California Avenue is open. We worked with your team. We are working on design now of the 8th Street extension project, which the city manager also talked about. And so we have collected, what we call fee credits that help to pay for that. And you kind of want to get a bit of momentum behind you when you do that, because that's a very expensive project. Where we're at with it right now is we've started the what we call schematic design. So it goes from conceptual design into schematic design and then finally working drawings. There is quite a bit of coordination with the university, California State University, Monterey Bay, around the alignment of that road. And so we're working with the facilities department at CSUMB regarding the alignment of that roadway. There are some funny property lines in that area that kind of go back to the original Army parcels. And so the alignment of that roadway, and there will be some land that we'll have to work with the university to grant to them, and then they'll grant some back to us to smooth out some of those and make it all work. So we're in the, we're getting close to starting construction documents for that work, and then we'll get right into construction once those drawings are complete and then approved by the city. So 8th Street is coming. We're working away to get there, and our desire is to have it open. I appreciate the comments about the extension of 8th Street to Inner Garrison. Yeah, that'll be great because that roadway surface is in bad shape. One of the issues we have to work out with the city has to do with a potential roundabout at the corner of 8th Street in California, which has been discussed for some time and is part of an agreement that we have with the city and another party relative to our original CEQA approvals for the project. So we'll be working on that also. Let's see, there's probably other things. I'm sure there are questions. I'm happy to answer them. And in the interest of time, I'll leave it at that.
Just to clarify, Don, the city's gonna resurface 8th Street from California to Imgen Road.
Imgen Road, is that
There's
what?
no plan yet to do the mess from Imgen Road to Inner Garrison
Okay,
on
all
8th
right.
Street.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. Doug, you've had your hand up.
I did remember one other thing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One of the things I want to point out, which might help you, I'm not sure, is that, every one of the Shea homeowners that we sell homes to signs a disclosure statement. It's a pretty thick statement. And I've provided a copy of it to the city manager and to Guido also. That also has a surrounding properties map that is on it, or a map as an exhibit that goes to it. And what we do is we disclose to our homeowners the presence of all these things. There's a lot of stuff on there. The university, Highway 101, all these different things. Los Animas Concrete was identified for these residents, or for our buyers on the east side, as an existing use. And the statement itself speaks to noise and traffic and other things. And so for Shea home buyers, for our customers, they would have had that disclosure statement presented to them in escrow. They would have signed an acknowledgement indicating that they had seen it and read it and understood it. That doesn't necessarily protect second generation buyers. So if somebody bought from us and then sold their home to somebody else, there's no guarantee that disclosure continues necessarily. But I did want you to be aware of that, and we've provided that to staff so they can see it also.
All right, thank you. So we'll open public comment, starting with Doug McCowan. Oh, yeah. Let's hold off on Doug McCowan. Anybody in this room want to speak to this issue? Please step up to the podium, make sure that light's turned on, and you have up to 3 minutes.
Hi, afternoon. Before you start my clock, could we have some answers to the questions I raised at the last city council meeting about California? I've not heard from anyone.
So let me ask our staff. We had a meeting a week ago, and we promised the residents who spoke that they'd be contacted for their questions and comments to be discussed. So my question is, has Carol and the other commenters on California Avenue from last Tuesday, have they been contacted and total answers to their questions?
No, that they haven't yet. But our staff is working on those answers, and you'll get them really soon.
Okay, so if today is about California Avenue, and if we, I thought maybe I should just run through the questions so everyone's on board and the public can know what is it. And since you don't have the questions, the answers today, can we know when you may have the answers for them ready for us and how you may communicate it to the public?
So we'll answer that question as soon as public comment.
Okay.
So we don't take more of your time hearing our answers.
Okay. Well, my name is Carol Ng and I'm a Marina resident. Thank you everyone for your service. First off, the California Avenue traffic between Imjin and 9th, the traffic these few days is not representative of what it is at large because there's hardly any cement trucks. It's totally different than usual, so it's not representative. Perhaps because of the holidays. Then the traffic counter set up. Could we have one more extra coming off where it just comes off Imjin? That would be a little bit, the speed they travel at when they travel off Imjin is different than the ones that are set up later because there's a slope that slows down the traffic. So I think it's important if we could consider setting another one up. First off, I'm in favor of opening California, that part of California, but only at the appropriate time determined by the city and not at an unexpected, unplanned opening by a private entity. When it removed the physical barriers ahead of the city's original plans to solicit public feedback, then make decisions related to the road and the surrounding areas. And there are so many of them. I learned that it's not supposed to be open until 8th Street was open. So things need to be done systematically because they're related and have knock-on effects. My request is for the city to immediately restore the closure. This way, the city has the space to deliberate on the matters that are needed, then to open it when the support for its decisions is in place. The city should have control over its roads. There are three good reasons to restore the closure immediately. Number one, This allows the city to carry out its original plan to gather public feedback, to take them into account, then decide and set up the required support. As an example, physical infrastructure, the gathering, the traffic speeds right now, we need another one set up for it to be representative, and over a course of time, but immediately to gather the data before these things continue. There has been property damage, cars speed by, especially at night. Last Thursday night on November 21st, a neighbor on California Avenue had her side mirror damaged by a car passing by. Same thing that happened 6 months ago to another vehicle. It is a matter of principle to disallow a private entity to make decisions over public property. This is no different than an individual doing so before the city decides when's the right time to open it. It is unacceptable, and I think wish for the city to take control of its roads
Carol,
immediately.
I have to ask you.
Thank
to-
you.
Thank
Just
you.
a moment, point of order, Mayor, through the mayor. I'd like to ask the council if we can, for this item, allow an extra minute or two for every speaker.
Okay, Leslie?
Let's do 1 extra minute because I see several on Zoom as well. Yeah, total of 4.
Somebody else?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Councilmember Gaddis? With that? Okay, so another minute for everybody. So everyone has up to 4 minutes. So, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so to recap, immediately restore the closure in response to the unplanned opening, surprise opening by a private entity. So Marina City can take control of its roads to develop a cohesive and systematic process to open roads, to take into account all the surrounding developments as 8th Street that I hear about, 2nd Avenue, Las Animas Concrete, all these are related. And then when we could have the answers to my questions for the last city council and how everyone could know about it, could let us know at the end. My next topic is on Las Animas Concrete, which relates to California Avenue. Me, many others, and CSUMB are against the continued presence of the company. We don't want to live with concrete trucks. And yes, another 3 years up and down in front of our homes, together with cyclists, students, pets, and kids, is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol, for last week and this week.
Thank you.
And we'll answer your questions at the end of the public comment period, or we'll address them anyway.
Okay, hi, I'm Min Chan. I'm also a Marina Dunes resident. I'm here to provide feedback on California Avenue, just observations that I've made living there. So there are 3 main points. One is speeding cars, second is just noise, and third is wildlife impact. So when it comes to speeding, I know it was mentioned earlier that Mr. Long here said that there weren't many cars going through that area. But my Ring camera captures every single thing that passes through. And you can see that between every 1 and 5 minutes, my Ring camera captures a video. And 95% of them are cars. 5% are people walking, which is great. So if you need me to, I can go in a 24-hour period, count how many cars there are. I will provide that if you want me to. Now, when it comes to speeding, I know there is a 25 mile-an-hour zone, and I see there's one sign, and it would be great if there were at least a few other signs put up, because there's one sign near Imjin Parkway, but there's none in the middle or at the other end at 8th Avenue. And there's none coming from 8th Avenue to Imjin Parkway at all. So that, in fact, that's where I observe speeding cars. It's going the other way. Now, so that's speeding. When it comes to noise, so I hear that the trucks are allowed to drive there, which is, okay, that's what's happening. But it's actually very noisy. And I would like to now show a video. Can you play the combined one? Where the first one is me driving at 25 miles an hour, and then you will see a speeding car, then you will see a truck, then you will see a cyclist.
How's it look, Syra? You got an exclusive over there.
So that's me.
Yeah, I'm my car.
Oh. Do you have sound? Okay, in case we don't see it. Anyway, she will have a copy of it if you want to view it another time.
She can't. She's the holiday.
Yes. Okay, so that's that. Okay, it does show that me driving through is some pace, then the blue car is a lot faster, then the truck is a lot louder, and then the last one is the cyclist, and it's absolute silence. Okay, that's my point. And then, so that's those videos. So my last point was wildlife impact. There are birds on the other side of California, and through my Ring camera, before the road was open, every 2 or 3 days, quails would come down and feed on our front lawn, front yard. And since the opening, they don't come anymore. And I also hear less birds chirping away on the wildlife area. So that's, I know that us humans, most of us, we don't care about that stuff, but we should. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Singh, and I'm sorry we couldn't hear the audio. That would like to come up and speak in person? Let's go to Doug McCowan, if that's you, Doug, or Doug MC.
Hey, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Doug McCardle. I work for Shea Homes, the developer. I have my hand up prior to Don joining and speaking, so he was actually able to answer most of the questions that came up. But I would like to take this moment to share a couple thoughts. I'm the project manager for the Dunes development, along with a whole army of us at Shea. And I can just share with the council how routinely we go through all the project updates. It's either weekly or bi-weekly with city staff. We let them know all the work that's going on. Obviously, it's a two-way street. They share with us concerns or observations, and we also let them know about future work and timing from our perspective, and then we hear from their perspective. So it's a very communication heavy relationship, and so I thought I'd just share that. Basically, all street closures and openings are done in conjunction with us and the city. It's always done together, never done arbitrarily. And so I'll take a moment to just dispel a narrative that I'd heard at the last meeting and again today, that the developer or private entity may have opened California Avenue arbitrarily. That's actually not accurate. We have done it in conjunction with the city by virtue of the Phase 2 East improvements being accepted by the city. And so I thought I would just share that. And I think Councilmember McCarthy made a good point, which is that we are pretty much an open book, always have been, and will continue to be. So you're always welcome to reach out to me, Mayor Bruce, or anyone else, or Don on our team, and everything that we're doing is always in conjunction and with open communication with the city. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I hope you stick around. We might have some questions later.
Sure.
Let's go to Denise Turley. Welcome, Denise.
Hi, I have two concerns for today. One is slightly more general, as it's pretty dark now. And the other night we had an emergency and had to head home and course get off at the exit to come up Jim Parkway. The lighting where the traffic is diverted at the curve is abominable.
Excuse me,
I mean,
Denise. Excuse me, Denise. This is California Avenue. We're here to hear comments about California Avenue.
oh, well, I've had my hand up since the beginning and never got called on. So I just assumed you were going to let me speak on both issues.
Yeah, your hand came up
I don't know
after
what
we.
to say about that.
Your
So
hand
if
came
you
up
want
after
me
we
to
closed public
okay,
comment.
no,
But if,
no, Bruce, stop.
go ahead. Excuse me, Denise. If you have comment on California Avenue, now is the time.
Okay. I understand that you personally love to interrupt me, and I'm asking that you give me the time so that I can make the comment I need to comment. We don't need to do this dance every time. It's actually creepy. Number one. Number two, I'm saying that it's time to check the lights on major roads, such as Jim Parkway at dusk and after, because they're not sufficient and it's really creepy driving in those areas, including having
Denise, I have to interrupt.
barriers up.
Please send that kind of information to the city. But this is about the opening of California Avenue.
My comment to the two speakers from the dunes that spoke is this: keep all copies of who you talk to, when you talk to them, how you got a hold of them, because the city is poor at communicating. They'll tell you one thing and lie about it later. That the fact that 3 council members said that they were irritated to have to be at this meeting when there was resident safety issues brought up offends me. And I would hope that those folks know that my comment the other night they weren't there for. My car was damaged by a Los Animas truck. They knew about it. I made a claim. They never paid off. And so I don't know whether they should or shouldn't expect them to do so. And Don Hoffer's comment about, well, they know about that. They just accept that risk living here. That's not the way to treat residents of the city of Marina. I'm giving you back a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, let's go to Marie Weiner. Welcome.
Members of the City Council, oops.
We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Marie Weiner, and I live and own residential property on the 2600 block of California Avenue between 9th and 8th. I am a California attorney, but I am appearing on my own behalf. The intersection of California and MGM should remain open, please. The traffic noise and safety problems are not caused by opening the road. They are caused by Los Animas Concrete's use of California residential streets as an industrial road. The street is not paved and striped to be an industrial road. The operation of a cement plant at 499 9th Street causes heavy commercial truck traffic of 80 to 90 truck trips per day up and down California Avenue right in front of our homes by 3 and 4 axle cement trucks and 5 axle tractor trailer trucks. I disagree with your city council and your city manager about the status of a lease for them. The issue is lack of a lease because they are operating illegally, and that has everything to do with traffic impacts because this city council has the power to stop the problem. Los Alamos operates on city-owned property. At present, it has no lease and is operating illegally. It's not had an operative lease for years and is reverted to a monthly rental situation. According to the agendas and minutes published by the city council, the city.
Excuse me, Marie, I hate to interrupt, Marie, but we've been advised not to discuss the lease. That will be another meeting.
It's not about the lease. It's about a lack of the lease. They are operating illegally, and this body has the power to enjoin them and stop them from doing this. Los Animas has been acting without a conditional use permit for 7 years. At the planning commission meeting on October 24 for.
Marie, I'm not an attorney, but our city attorney says that this discussion needs to wait till we address them at a future meeting.
You are.
And I just want to say that.
No, you are
that we've-
incorrect. I'm allowed to give public comment.
Not if it's not on the agenda item, and we were.
It is
we
on
were
the
advised
agenda item
prior-
because it has to do with the fact.
Excuse me,
that they are
Marie.
Operating
We were
illegally
advised,
on our
Marie,
traffic.
that you can't speak to the lease, and we need to. We have stopped your time, so we haven't wasted your time, but we'd like the city attorney to provide input.
Yes, thank you. We've received that comment and we'll evaluate it in the regular course and provide any advice that we need to city staff and to council. Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, the decision about the CUP, Commissioner McCarthy asked about, it wasn't appealed because the city council sets a prohibitively high fee of approximately $3,000 to be able to file an appeal. The issue is that they are operating illegally now because they do not have.
Excuse me, Marie, you're back to talking about the lease or the lack of a lease. And here we're just talking about California Avenue on the advice of our city attorney.
College student traffic already existed on California Avenue prior to the opening of Engine Parkway. Students park on California Avenue right now, and they walk and bike and scooter and skate to the college by going up 9th anyway. All the more reason why commercial truck traffic should cease. If there's a problem with speeding, the way to address it would be to have a police officer be on California Avenue a couple days at the beginning of each semester and hand out traffic tickets to speeding students or other speeders, and word would get around that you're not allowed to do that. I have also submitted to you the petition signed by 11 neighbors in the area complaining about the traffic and noise caused by Los Animas trucks, and that is the problem. It is not passenger traffic. And the board should do something about stopping it. They can stop the traffic from Los Animas. I'm open for any questions you might have since you're prohibiting me from what is the issue, which is that you could enjoin this traffic immediately.
Thank you, Marie. Let's go to Jeffrey Markham.
Thank you, Mayor. I had two quick questions, I hope. One is to confirm that the extension for Las Animas is the last one the city is going to do. Second question is what the anticipated traffic pattern change will be when 9th is completed. Do we expect CSUMB students will not use California as much as well as Las Animas will use it as well? And then the comment I had sent by email, I'm actually supportive of California Avenue staying open. I frequent the Equestrian Center, and it's certainly much more convenient to get there than having to go down Imgen Road. I think many more members of the public and people from out of town will find that Equestrian Center since it's so much easier to get to. Those are my comments and questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else online that would like to speak to this matter? All right, we'll close public comment and kind of wind backward because I remember those the best, but we'll get to all the questions. To Jeff's question, whether this extension of Las Animas's lease will be the last, I don't think we can predict that. But Lane, do you want to provide any information on that?
Yeah, we should, again, that issue will be before council in the near future.
But to answer your question, maybe yes, maybe no. Tonight, we don't know.
Correct, we don't know.
Okay. And then changes that are expected when 9th is open, I think you probably meant 8th Street. So when 8th Street is open, Lane, what kind of changes do we expect in traffic routes being used? I guess he meant, are they going to use 8th Street to get to 2nd, or are they going to use California and Imgen to get to 2nd? Maybe that's kind of the question.
Right, but we think just adding another street to the network definitely is going to improve the traffic flow in the network. So it definitely will help.
Every street gets less.
Correct.
Every street that's open. All right. I thought Marie had a good point. And I forget what it was. Do you recall? So she made a suggestion.
Yeah, about the start of the college year, have police officers out there as new students to remind them not to speed. And
Right,
we can
right.
certainly do that.
It works for me because they were on that little used road by the Equestrian Center, RX Drive. There's a stop sign. I don't normally stop at that stop sign. I will from now on. You feel like you're in the middle of nowhere and there's nobody around. Sometimes there's a policeman waiting there. Okay. I have a question for Doug McCarl a little bit later. Singh had a great presentation about wildlife and noise and speeding. I'm looking through Carol's. Can someone remind me what Carol's questions were? All right. So I'm not going to answer the industrial questions, have permission to travel on that part of the road, but I think that they do, right? Currently, the trucks have a permit to drive that road.
Correct.
And can they drive through that road at any time? 24/7?
No, they have certain requirements when they can operate.
Okay. And the speed limit was said to be 25 miles an hour. When does the lease end? Can we answer that question?
The lease is a month-to-month lease.
The Los Animas lease is a month-to-month. So when the long-term lease expires, it's not that they're illegal, it's just that it automatically reverts to a month-to-month.
Without getting into further details, yes, that's correct.
Okay, so
We'll
there.
bring that to council and explain that
All right.
whole process.
Thanks, Dad. So it's a month-to-month. He gave me that look. Do we have any plans to mitigate the negative hazards of cement trucks?
Yes, that was all part of the conditional use permit.
Okay, so probably not well, can we say what those are? Not.
No, but they can get a copy from Guido of that
Okay.
conditional use permit.
So regarding the opening of the California Avenue, we've heard a couple things tonight. We've heard that the city didn't expect it to open when it did. And Doug McCarl said basically what I understood him to say was that once the city approves the work, then it's understood that the road will open. So can we just clarify that little nuance?
Yeah, that typically is correct. Once we accept the improvements, it becomes the city road at that point. And so we're in complete agreement with that. It's just the little nuance that that we weren't expecting the barriers to be removed right away, but certainly once they accept it, it becomes a city street, not their street, and so they're removing all their barriers and things
Okay.
off it.
So they were entitled, they were within their rights to remove their barricades. But if we had a approved closure process, it probably would help that final communication happens. So the city knows that on X day.
Correct.
So the city can do the communication and outreach they need to do before the barricades are
Correct.
pulled. Okay, did anyone write down any other questions that Carol asked that I haven't addressed?
Yes, she was asking for one more counter, and I don't know exactly where.
Yeah, she
was
wanted
going
it closer to
one more
MGM
counter.
Parkway.
Okay. There's one close to, in the middle, because there's one
Okay,
close to
but
Indian already.
I think Lane said earlier that more traffic counters might be warranted, so that's something for staff to work out, perhaps in contact communication with Carol. Councilmember McCarthy, do you have more
Yeah, I
questions for
just
Carol?
wanted some clarification whether those were today's questions or also did they include last week's questions?
I think it might have been a blend. That's why I'm asking if anyone wrote down questions she asked today that weren't addressed today.
I think you addressed most of her questions. The traffic counters, she requested to immediately close 8. I want to know if private entities make decisions on public property. And it was the city council accepted the improvements. I think that covered most of her questions. I can talk with her directly after this meeting about her questions at the last council meeting.
All right, Carol, you're the only thing standing between Lane and his vacation. So just so you know that, All right. So thank you, everyone in the public. Did anyone note any other questions from others that I may not have addressed? Okay. So now let's go to Brian. I didn't turn your light off. So if you have anything comments now, this would be a good time. Okay. One question I have of staff is, I know that Edry did some outreach to some residents, and I don't know if that's part of our normal process, but can staff speak to the outreach done to residents prior to California Avenue opening?
I just haven't been able to get that information from Edry. He's been gone.
If we looked ahead to what would be logical, when we open 8th Street or we open other streets, how far do we go to outreach to residents? Like in this case, of course, you'd want to talk to the residents that are on California. You're going to have changed situation. But when you get to Catwalk Drive and Bungalow and other streets interior, which also may have some increased traffic coming off of MGM Parkway especially when it's severely congested. I mean, how many houses? There's 562 houses that are lived in at the dunes. So how many of those houses, what's logical for outreach?
That's a really good question. But those are things that we're going to talk process and get back to, because those are all really good questions on that. And we can certainly improve our processes, and we're going to work on that, identify kind of the checklist and get some of your thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Councilmember Vischer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll also start with the last one. It's easy. To do outreach to the dunes. It's an HOA. They have a management company. They have a board. It's pretty simple to contact HOAs.
That's all 562.
That goes to all the owners, and they can pass it on to the tenants. So, but that's an easy way to reach.
We passed out 562 flyers for an event. We went to all the porches.
Okay. Well,
Maybe that's just in the day.
29 casitas.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
there we go.
There you go. Thanks for saving both of them.
I know. So, to be serious again, so 8th Street is coming. I just want to make sure that the developer is not waiting for any documents that need to be signed by the staff, as I had been told several times, but everything's taken care of.
They have their fee credits. As Don said, they're working on their design right now.
I learned to have it in writing now, because the problem with the residents thinking that California Avenue would not be opened until 8th Street was constructed is because I told them, because I spoke with my city manager quite a few times.
And we
that
discussed
always
it.
was the
We
plan.
discussed it here as well.
But it was never in writing. I agree. It's not in a document. So I'm learning my lesson here. So I apologize. But, okay. So then, so reopening. Oh, the repaving of 8th Street from California Avenue to Indian Road. Very good, because that will be while Indian Parkway is being widened. What is our responsibility for the rest of 8th Street?
So I'm not sure that's part of tonight.
Oh, sorry.
We're on
Yes.
California right now.
Okay, I'll do that later. Okay.
You have to wait in line behind Carol.
Oh,
to talk to
so
Lane
this I
after.
cannot do this either. I cannot do this. Okay, there we go. Speed limit enforcement, like I've asked several times, please, please, please do a lot, especially with this traffic survey coming up. Otherwise, we get more of that speed creep that Council Member McCarthy and I, before we were on the council, have spent a lot of time on trying to understand and trying to limit the speed increases that the city had to accept. So, like I said, let's Marina be known as the city where speeding is not allowed. And I might be a victim of that, but I will take that. So, okay. Are we allowed to talk about, I'm very careful now, residents asking whether other roads can be made from Los Animas to either Indian Parkway or Indian Road? That's
Yeah,
for the
I think
future.
that's the least about Los Animas and the
Okay,
conditions
we'll
on the
do that.
lease.
Okay, we'll keep that for later. Then the city manager said that residents can get a conditional use permit. They can get it from Guido. Do they know how to reach Guido, or can we let them know how to reach Guido?
His personal phone number.
Yes, come on.
The easiest way, you should do marina@cityofmarina.org. That will
And
go
it-
to Shep and that gets routed. So that's the easiest way is marina@cityofmarina.org.
Guido, did you have any other?
Yeah, the Los Animas use permit has been approved and the
Yeah.
appeal period has ended.
Yeah.
So, so I just wanted to clarify that. And I know we have to be careful, but I just wanted to clarify. So
So it's a public document.
yes, everything, most 99% of what I do is a public record.
Yes, I can also email to them, but I would like the public to know how to reach the city if they have requests.
Yes,
So,
all of the planning department's emails and phone numbers are on our website.
thank you. And otherwise Marina at City of Marina and our clerk will take care of that. So one more, just a remark. I know, opening, it's now opened California Avenue and it definitely has advantages. And some residents will be happy, some will not be, because some they have the trucks that used to go in front of Stephanie's home now are going in front of Carol's home. So it's just depending on what part of California you live at. So this is it. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Viola?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just answered my own question reading more. So thank you very much.
I don't think a motion is required, but if there's specific direction someone wants to make, you could surely make a motion. Councilmember McCarthy?
Just a quick comment. I'm hoping I don't get yelled at, but when this lease item does come before us, I think it would be good for staff to help us understand what our role is in evaluating what we've heard today, whether it's a quote unquote rubber stamping kind of thing, because it's already been through the CU process, or what our responsibility is, and just be very clear about that. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Okay. Unless anyone has any. Thank you, everyone, especially to the residents. And Carol, we're adjourned, but we're happy to talk to you right now, individually as much as you want. And thank you, Syra and Richard and Steve Russo and Guido for being here.
Oh, so good. I love tea cream.